Tobin Frost has just waltzed his way into a U.S. consulate in Cape Town, South Africa. Now, this man, without question, is one of the most notorious traitors that we've got.
How dull is a day in the life of a low-level agent? Matt Weston pressed the passcode to open the first door. After scanning his face in front of the camera, he stepped into the CIA's safe house located in South Africa. Saying Weston was a CIA agent would be no different from saying he was just the caretaker of this empty building. This was the 366th day he carried out his duties here. Yet the information received was still that there were no missions at all. Matt had long since passed the rookie stage, but he was still regarded as a rookie. This gradually wore down his will and tormented him deeply, so he called his superior David and confided in him.
And when is that?
How long has it been?
12 months.
Well, talk to me in another 4.
David, I'm dying here. What's happening with the post in Paris?
One slot, 37 applicants. Every one of them with more field experience than you.
How am I supposed to get more experience? I'm staring at 4 walls all day.
Filled with enthusiasm but with no opportunity to serve the country, Matt felt resentful. But he had no idea that the appearance of a legendary agent was about to change his worldview and completely extinguish his burning patriotism. On the streets of Cape Town, the capital of South Africa, former CIA agent Tobin Frost, who had been on the run for many years, suddenly appeared. This drew intense attention from those pursuing him. During his 10-year mysterious disappearance, he made a living by trading NATO's classified information. This also made him the CIA's #1 wanted target for a long time. Tobin Frost arrived at a private room on the 2nd floor of the hotel, right on time to meet his friend Eric. Eric worked for Britain's MI6. He and Tobin Frost had been secretly cooperating for many years. One was responsible for supplying information, the other for contacting buyers. The two collaborated to profit together. This time was different from the previous ones. Tobin Frost told Eric that he had been waiting for this day for a long time.
Tobin, what's in that box is going to make the world a smaller place for you, for both of us.
I got your account. You get your cut 24 hours after transaction.
Some of our old bosses aren't going to be happy these files are out in the open.
Do I make you nervous?
Always.
Good.
He described the top-secret content of the capsule chip as being like a nuclear bomb. He warned that what was in the box would leave no place for Tobin Frost to hide, nor for Eric himself. And with the appearance of the chip that could destroy the very existence of the CIA, a manhunt for Tobin Frost also began. He entered the restroom cautiously, bending down to check each stall. After confirming there was no one, he stepped into one of the stalls. He took off his coat, placed a toolbox on the toilet tank lid, then connected the capsule chip to an encryption device. Just like that, he completed securing the chip with a password. Then he took the chip out, placed it into an aluminum syringe, and looked for a hiding place for this information bomb. But just as he finished these steps, he encountered an uninvited guest. Tobin Frost realized he shouldn't stay here long, because the appearance of one assassin often meant there was a group of killers behind him. Faced with mounting danger, Tobin Frost walked up to a man. He didn't make any unnecessary moves, only threw him a stack of money. The man counted the cash and put it in his pocket. At that moment, a boy quickly ran up and frisked him, but found nothing. And the dead man was that same black man who had money to spend but no life to enjoy it. Tobin Frost had driven out of the hotel with Eric through the back door. In the car, the friend kept explaining to him.
Tobin, you have to believe me. I knew nothing about any of that.
Did you know if anybody was following you?
No, I don't think anybody was following me. I swear on my life, Tobin, I had absolutely...
Before he finished his sentence, the friend was killed instantly. Just like that, the car went out of control and was suddenly blocked by another vehicle. Tobin Frost knew that even in these buildings, danger could be lurking. He didn't dare hesitate for even a second, quickly rummaged through his friend's wallet, and used the chaotic crowd to step out of the car. After quickly scanning the area, he neatly threw Eric's identification documents into the trash bin. 1 minute later, the assassin drove to the scene of the accident. Tobin Frost was hiding within the marching protest crowd, passing quietly through. Seeing the car blocked by the crowd and unable to move forward, the assassin immediately called for 2 other vehicles. Then he got out and rushed into the crowd himself. He held a pistol, always ready to identify and eliminate the target. At a street corner, the figure of Tobin Frost flashed by. Seeing this, the assassin quickly charged forward. Tobin Frost didn't look back, striding through the food street. The assassin behind him sped up and closely pursued. With the arrival of the police car, Tobin Frost escaped the chase. But just as he reached the end of the street, a car suddenly rushed out. He stopped and saw that the other side of the road was also blocked. Behind were relentless pursuers, and ahead was the United States consulate in South Africa. Without a second thought, he quickly took out a passport, threw the rest and his weapons into the trash, put the backpack on his shoulders, then sprinted toward the U.S. consulate ahead. In the end, he turned around and glanced at the assassin, memorizing that face. Just like that, he made a choice between surrendering himself and continuing to flee. And was this choice ultimately a reluctant compromise or a hidden conspiracy? When the phone at CIA headquarters rang, Catherine received shocking news.
Locked down the consulate.
Upon learning that Tobin Frost had turned himself in, Director Harlan became extremely cautious.
Tobin Frost was recruited into the agency in 1984. He tested off the charts in aptitude for psychological field work. His first assignment was in Lebanon in January 1985. 3 months later, he captured and flipped a high-ranking Hezbollah leader. Over the next several years, Frost successfully questioned and recruited many high-value individuals. He became known as an expert manipulator of human assets, and he literally rewrote agency interrogation protocols.
Frost served in many active theaters, including Libya from 1995 to 1998, Jordan, 98 to 2000.
During his tenure in Jordan, Frost was suspected of leaking information to Mossad, but nothing was confirmed. 10 years ago, Frost went off the reservation completely. He currently has no allegiances and is wanted for espionage on 4 continents.
His last known sighting is Hamburg, Germany in 2011.
It could be said that he had single-handedly rewritten the CIA's intelligence interrogation strategy. As for why he voluntarily left the organization 10 years ago, it remains a mystery. David suggested interrogating Tobin Frost on the spot because once he returned to the U.S., the Department of Defense and the Security Bureau could very likely step in to take the credit. At this moment, inside the safe house in Cape Town, Matt was bored, killing time completely unaware of what he was about to face. Matt received a mission call. He was both nervous and excited. This was the first mission he had received in the past year. He called his girlfriend lying that the company needed to work overtime in the evening and that he would meet her later. Though he loved her deeply as an agent, he could only be forced to hide his profession. At this moment, Matt received an important notification. Looking at the prompts on the screen, Matt knew that tonight would definitely be a long night. Very quickly, the interrogation team escorting the suspect appeared in front of the safe house. After verifying the code, Matt stepped in front of the elevator, eagerly waiting for his first mission. The elevator doors slowly opened. Without much greeting, the leading man gestured directly toward the interrogation room. Seeing the prisoner blindfolded and handcuffed, Matt, for the first time, felt the reality of the mission. He couldn't help but be curious about what kind of person was being treated with such importance by the CIA. An agent nearby was arranging weapons, and the clinking of metal couldn't help but make Matt nervous. The person in charge told Matt to turn off all surveillance in the interrogation room. Hearing this, Matt instinctively flinched, as this clearly went against interrogation protocol. But under the pressure of the situation, he was forced to make a judgment against his conscience. The agent poured purified water into a bucket, and then soaked a towel, preparing to carry out water torture. But Tobin Frost calmly said beside them,
600. Towels, you need 600. Those are 350, 375 gram weight. You need 600.
The man said that as long as he confessed the reason for his surrender, truthfully disclosed the source of intelligence, the buyer, and the transaction method during his time on the run, he could avoid everything that was about to happen.
Absolutely. Anything you want, Daniel.
Seeing this, the man ordered his subordinates to proceed with the punishment. The waterboarding torture commonly used by the US CIA on terrorists was thus brought onto the screen. Tobin Frost offered no resistance and skillfully cooperated. He lay on his back, staring as the wet towel was placed over his face. Seeing this scene, Matt in the observation room couldn't bear to look directly. Although he did not agree with this method in his heart, he also didn't dare to criticize it openly. 20 seconds later, the first round of water pouring ended. Tobin Frost gasped for breath. Compared to the mistake made by the man, Tobin Frost appeared calm. The U.S. military often used this coercive method precisely because it could destroy a suspect's will without leaving any physical injuries on their body. After 2 rounds of waterboarding, Tobin Frost still showed no change in expression.
How long was that?
The man couldn't hide his astonishment, paused to think, then prepared to switch to another method. Unexpectedly at this moment, the power of the safe house was suddenly cut. Along with the activation of the backup power, the alarm siren began to sound. The well-trained special ops team quickly realized the urgency of the situation and immediately switched to high alert. Matt, with a dazed expression, involuntarily stepped forward. When he saw that 12 armed men had gathered at the entrance of the safe house, he instinctively drew his pistol and randomly backed into a room, ready. With the sound of an explosion came several flashbang grenades. Everyone on site was stunned and deafened. Before they could recover, the sound of machine gun fire erupted. A moment later, the agents forced themselves up through the pane to fight back. At this point, there was only one agent left in the interrogation room. Tobin Frost clearly understood that the purpose of these assassins' arrival was all about him. The assassins advanced in an orderly manner. The agents gradually fell into a passive position, and the reappearance of that mysterious assassin signaled that this time, they might not be able to escape their doom. Seeing teammates fall one after another, the isolated man with no reinforcements shouted loudly into the interrogation room for help. Just like that, the hand of fate pushed this rookie into the interrogation room. His very first mission had to face a gunfight like this. This made him flustered and extremely tense.
They're here for me, but they want me alive. You don't kill.
Tobin Frost, a master of psychological warfare, continuously broke down Matt's psychological defenses. Then he continued his mental assault by saying to the rookie, "The number one rule of a safe house is that the keeper is responsible for the guest."
For your house guest. I'm your house guest. The clock is ticking. They gave you the keys. Do your duty, son.
Matt hesitated, unable to make a decision for the moment, and could only open the door to carefully check the situation outside. Just like that, the special ops team was completely wiped out. Immediately afterward, they began a thorough search of the area. When they entered the interrogation room, they discovered that Tobin Frost had vanished without a trace. It turned out there was a hidden emergency exit here. At this moment, Matt had forced Tobin Frost out onto the street outside the building. In a desperate situation, he pointed his gun to stop a car and placed Tobin Frost in the trunk. The two managed to escape the scene just in time before the assassins caught up. But how could such ruthless men give up so easily? They quickly boarded a car parked by the roadside and began a life-or-death pursuit. While fleeing, Matt reported that the entire special ops team had been killed and requested asylum at the U.S. consulate. But this request was blocked by David. There can't be a shootout in front of the consulate. A diplomatic disaster. Reluctantly, Catherine ordered Matt with one condition: ensure the safety of the guest and get rid of the assassins at all costs. Immediately after Matt led the assassins onto an overpass, seeing the assassins cornered and stopped on the bridge, Matt didn't dare let his guard down for a moment. He stepped on the gas, ignoring the red light speeding forward. At this point, Tobin Frost in the trunk had finally managed to open the rear panel. The next second, he had knocked the pistol out of Matt's hand. The two began to fight inside the car. When the handbrake was yanked hard, the car suddenly lost control and veered into a turn. Tobin Frost took the opportunity to choke Matt. Just like that, Matt luckily retrieved the pistol and managed to subdue Tobin Frost. Clearly, even he couldn't believe what had just happened. Back at headquarters, Director Harlan ordered an immediate investigation into the identities of the assassins. He also gave instructions to quickly get Matt and Tobin Frost out of South Africa. Catherine stated that her side couldn't deploy personnel for the time being. Although David's side could send people to South Africa, it would take at least 18 hours. Therefore, at this stage, the only person they could rely on was this rookie agent. The investigator then opened Matt's file.
Born 2/24/82 to Terry and Madeline Weston, Port Washington, New York. An assault arrest 1 month after both parents and a younger sister were killed in a traffic accident in which his father's blood alcohol was twice the legal limit. Yale, degree in economics, recruited out of Yale Law. High marks in analytical and linguistics at the farm, excellent in trade craft skills. His girlfriend, Anna Moreau, is a French national. He reported them as having close and continuing contact. She's a second-year resident in the oncology department at Montesquieu.
Get in that car.
She accepted a position with Hotel Dieu Hospital in Paris, starts in 2 weeks. No known political affiliations. She's clean.
The two on the other side had already switched to another car. To prevent another attack, Matt sat behind Tobin Frost with a gun. Glancing at his phone, Matt saw that his girlfriend had called 7 times. At this moment, Tobin Frost continued his psychological tactic. He told Matt that, according to CIA procedure, he would definitely be required to go to a designated location to receive an emergency escape package. Then, using the satellite positioning system inside, proceed to the next safe house to hide. One question he asked couldn't help but make Matt fall into thought. I think you should ask yourself why your safe house was attacked. Seeing Matt's puzzled expression, Tobin Frost smiled and said, "The location of the safe house is top secret. Those pursuers didn't show up by asking for directions at a gas station. They were invited. There's a mole in your people." Matt remained on guard, but Tobin Frost continued speaking. He said that the worst-case scenario was that the higher-ups would somehow tie him to Tobin Frost. That way, Matt could serve as a scapegoat in the final Senate hearing. "I'm not your only enemy tonight." Clearly, this verbal attack was shaking the rookie's suspicions. After that, he escorted Tobin Frost to a motel and temporarily settled in. Seeing Tobin Frost handcuff himself to a water pipe, Matt finally felt at ease and stepped out of the room. He used the public phone in the hallway to call his girlfriend. After going through such a life and death night, the sound of her voice immediately brought him a moment of peace. But even when facing the person he loved most, he still had to lie reluctantly. A lie that even he himself despised. He lied that the clinic where he worked had been attacked by terrorists, then advised his girlfriend to temporarily stay at her best friend's house for a few days. The girlfriend walked out to the balcony and looked down at the police car below. After thinking for a moment, she ultimately chose to believe. Without hesitation, she rushed to her best friend's house. Matt hung up the phone, unable to hide the guilt he felt toward the person he loved. Tobin Frost vaguely heard the conversation between the two and immediately saw through him. Then he said that the greatest taboo in the agent profession was being easily moved emotionally, because only lies could protect the person one loved most. The more lies piled up, the closer the truth would come, to becoming an endless lie. What was more tragic was that the reason the person one loved chose to believe was not because she truly believed, but because she was willing to believe and needed to believe. Even though deep down she understood that those things were not true, she would never leave you, Matt.
You're gonna leave her.
I'm not you.
But Matt didn't know that 24 hours later he would become Tobin Frost. After that, headquarters contacted him. David told him that the support team would still take at least another 12 hours, but they had already prepared an emergency escape package for him. It was placed in a locker at the stadium subway station. The GPS system inside the bag could guide them to the next safe house. Hearing this, Matt remained silent. How did they manage to track down our safe house? We're investigating. Right now, everything depends on you, little Matt. Deliver Tobin Frost to the next safe house, and you'll be eligible for reassignment. Although Matt had doubts in his mind, the only thing he could do now was to immediately take Tobin Frost to the stadium subway station. The place was packed and extremely crowded. Matt stuck closely to Tobin Frost, weaving through the crowd, afraid that the two of them would be swept away by the dense stream of people at any moment. Fortunately, they reached the locker. Matt opened it and retrieved a GPS device from the emergency escape package. Using the coordinates, he received the address of another safe house. A football match was underway in the stadium. The two of them continued on their way, according to plan. But at this moment, the appearance of several police officers brought Tobin Frost a glimmer of hope. Matt should not have drawn his pistol at this time. Panic spread, and as expected, this rookie was immediately subdued by the police on the spot. At this point, no matter how he tried to explain, it was useless. Tobin Frost was escorted by the police to the medical room. Matt, on the other hand, was taken to the monitoring room. Just like that, the two were completely separated. Matt anxiously explained that he was an American agent and that the man being captured was an extremely dangerous criminal. At this moment, an image of the medical room briefly appeared. Seeing Tobin Frost's figure on the surveillance screen, Matt realized that if he didn't act now, there would be no more chances. After successfully subduing two police officers, Matt picked up weapons and luggage and quickly chased after Tobin Frost. He stood at a high position, calmly paused for a moment, and finally spotted Tobin Frost. He quickly gave chase, but the crowded stream of people invisibly slowed him down. Seeing Tobin Frost getting farther away, Matt, in desperation, prepared to draw his gun to issue a warning. Unexpectedly, this scene was spotted by a patrolling detective. The officer immediately fired a warning shot. Tobin Frost did not turn back, using the chaos to quickly enter an underground tunnel. Seeing this, Matt immediately accelerated his pursuit. But in the eyes of the police, this was resisting arrest and fleeing. The officer immediately fired at him. Seeing that the bullet might hit innocent civilians, Matt was forced to return fire. The officer fell. At that moment, he suddenly realized he might have killed someone. But right now, pursuing Tobin Frost was the top priority. He gathered himself and quickly followed Tobin Frost's figure to a street corner. Right then, Tobin Frost pointed a gun at him and threatened him, then beat Matt up. Tobin Frost threw down the gun, turned around and walked away, leaving Matt sitting helplessly on the ground. Reluctantly, Matt could only call headquarters to report the news of Tobin Frost's escape to David. He assured them that he would find clues and recapture him. But Catherine said his mission now was not to pursue, but to go to the consulate to avoid being wanted by local police.
Now, you've done a fine job. We'll take it from here.
That sentence immediately broke him. At this moment, he truly felt every word Tobin Frost had said earlier, and he seemed to be on the verge of being abandoned by his own people. After hanging up, David still tried to defend his subordinate, but Catherine immediately made things difficult. She suspected that Tobin Frost's escape was not due to Matt's incompetence, but that he had been recruited by Tobin Frost. Harlan directly ordered the two to immediately depart for Cape Town to handle the matter. After that, Matt arranged to meet Anna at the station. He held her hand tightly, unwilling to let go. But the current situation was critical, and he could only tell her everything. He confessed his identity as an agent, then took out a plane ticket and a stack of money, pleading with Anna to fly to Paris immediately. If anyone asks, say that you broke up a week ago. Looking at his girlfriend's figure, slowly fading into the distance, Matt could not help but admit that Tobin Frost's words were coming true one by one. But as he stepped out of the station and happened to look up, that gave him a clue. On the large screen of the waiting area, a town named Longa was the direction Tobin Frost had tried to reach earlier while driving. So Matt decided to investigate this lead. He logged into the CIA surveillance system to review individuals under special watch in the town of Longa. Eventually, he found a forger named Carlos, and all of his search activity was immediately known to headquarters. On the plane, Catherine immediately concluded. Matt had betrayed them. The purpose of finding a forger was undoubtedly to escape, but David still had great trust in his subordinate. Reality proved that Matt's investigation direction was not wrong. Tobin Frost was indeed an old friend of Carlos. It was evident that their relationship was quite deep. Tobin Frost clearly stated his purpose. He needed a new set of documents to leave South Africa. Carlos, upon hearing this, immediately got to work without saying a word. It was completed very quickly. While the two were talking, bullets were fired into the house. It turned out the assassins had also arrived. They opened the door and directly killed Carlos Lost's wife. Seeing this, Carlos Lost, disregarding his own safety, blocked the staircase. Just like that, beloved friends died one after another because of him. And perhaps this was the fate of a fugitive. There was no time for grief. The only way out was to risk everything and flee. At this moment, Matt also arrived at the scene, drawn by the sound of gunfire. He attacked a sniper who was shooting wildly from behind. Looking up, he spotted Tobin Frost running on the rooftop. He immediately got in a car and drove toward him, preparing to pick him up. After a long chase, he finally caught up to Tobin Frost. Then he got out of the car and engaged in fierce combat with the assassins behind them. Under Matt's strong cover, Tobin Frost quickly got into the driver's seat. At last, the two successfully escaped the encirclement of the assassins. Watching the car drive farther away, one of the assassins unwillingly picked up the phone. Although they had narrowly escaped death, thinking of the friend who was dragged into danger because of him made Tobin Frost extremely pained. After driving for a while, he still couldn't help but ask, "Matt, how did you find me?"
Wasn't that hard?
But right at that moment, the assassins caught up and fired a hail of bullets at them. Although neither of them was injured, it was clear that the car could no longer start. So they quickly hid inside a building along the road. The three assassins behind them closely pursued, and a deadly close-range battle was about to begin. Matt successfully took down one assassin, but Tobin Frost on the upper floor didn't have it as easy because he was facing two desperate men. Matt asked the assassin who he worked for. It could be seen that Matt was shedding the inexperience of a rookie agent and gradually adapting to the world of espionage where the strong devour the weak. Tobin Frost was unfortunately shot, dragging his heavy body slowly down the stairs. That bullet had nearly taken half his life. Seeing Matt brutally torturing the injured man, Tobin Frost intended to speak up and stop him. At that moment, the answer suddenly slipped from the wounded man's mouth. It almost instantly shattered Matt's faith. Although he had imagined it countless times in his head, when the answer truly appeared, Matt's heart was suddenly overwhelmed by a strong sense of emptiness. After that, they sneaked into a pharmacy. Tobin Frost simply dressed his wound. Matt also seemed to lessen his hostility toward him because everything he had said had come true. Watching Matt bandage his wound, Tobin Frost spoke profoundly. "Don't kill innocent people." It turned out that Tobin Frost had once been just as pure and passionate as him. He had personally witnessed an organization that, in order to eliminate a target, had not hesitated to bury all the innocent people on the plane with him. And the reason the target was assassinated was because he was about to go to Congress to expose the dirty dealings of the CIA. Matt asked if that was the reason Tobin Frost left, but he denied it. Tobin Frost said that he pretended as if nothing had happened and still went to work as usual the next day. He continued to share that with enough practice one becomes skilled, and if you lie every day, the lie eventually becomes the truth.
Everyone betrays everyone.
But Matt still refused to give in, saying he would bring him to justice. Tobin Frost quietly looked at him with a calm gaze as if it could see through everything. The two just sat there in silence, not saying a word. At that moment, they were both enemies and somewhat like friends. In another development, David, who had arrived in the town of Longa, received a call from Catherine at the Cape Town Center. Through examining the crime scene, along with witness testimony, she concluded that the two had fled together. But David was certain that Matt was bringing Tobin Frost to the next safe house. So they arranged to meet at an intersection on the outskirts of the city. David's assumption was not wrong. At that moment, Matt had already brought Tobin Frost to a safe house in the suburbs. After going through many dangers, Matt had become more cautious. He first told the man to cuff Tobin Frost to a pipe. Then, to further verify the identity of the man, he asked him to contact headquarters directly. Hearing the response from headquarters, Matt finally lowered his gun and sat in the house with the man waiting. At this moment, Catherine arrived at the location, intending to go with David to the safe house. She told David that she had just received information that Eric had handed over a capsule chip to Tobin Frost. The contents of the chip were currently under investigation. David said nothing and immediately shot Catherine. It turned out David was the mole hiding inside the organization. And Matt, who was completely unaware of this, was still patiently waiting for further instructions from headquarters. But just as he stood up to get coffee, the man's phone suddenly received a mysterious message. He immediately revealed a fierce expression and launched a sudden attack. Matt couldn't dodge in time and hurried to fight back. The pistol in his hand was instantly knocked away by the opponent. The two fought from the kitchen to the living room. Although stabbed in the abdomen, he still endured the pain and choked the man to death from behind. Matt, with his severely injured body, struggled to reach Tobin Frost. He didn't understand why his own people wanted to kill him.
Why are you in Cape Town? Tell me now. Why?
Tobin Frost handed Matt a piece of paper. It was a blacklist containing many names, specifically a blackmail list compiled by Israeli intelligence 5 years ago. It included corrupt German agents, MI6 of the UK, and even the CIA. Upon hearing this, Matt said they had to leave immediately, saying that he handed the key to Tobin Frost. Tobin Frost quickly unlocked the handcuffs. The next second, he forcefully took the capsule chip from Matt's hand. Tobin Frost ignored his plea and coldly stood up and walked away. In unbearable physical pain mixed with rage from betrayal, Matt finally collapsed in despair. When he woke up again, he found David sitting beside him. He comforted him. It's all over. He's become a qualified intelligence officer now. David reassured Matt that everything was over, but Matt only asked about Tobin Frost. David replied that he had escaped and that the scene was chaotic with blood everywhere. He guessed Tobin Frost had killed Keller. However, Matt coldly corrected him, saying he had killed Keller. David immediately changed his story, saying Tobin Frost had killed Keller and even killed Catherine. At that moment, the mysterious assassin appeared again. Only then did Matt realize that the one who had always wanted to kill him was the most trusted leader standing right in front of him. And next came the phase of psychological manipulation from the leader to his subordinate. Looking at that fake face, all of Matt's respect for his mentor completely vanished. What remained inside was only unfamiliarity and ugliness. Right at that moment, Tobin Frost arrived, so David and the assassin split up. He looked around and only then discovered that one of his subordinates had been shot dead. Immediately after, David went outside following the burning haystack. As he was cautiously advancing step by step, the nearby vehicle suddenly exploded, and the surge of heat thrown into the sky instantly blasted him away. As for the young man who was both enemy and friend, Tobin Frost ultimately couldn't bear to abandon him because he saw a younger version of himself. Suddenly, David outside fired at Tobin Frost. But in the end, the story was still filled with helplessness. Tobin Frost seemed unable to escape anymore. David, who had narrowly escaped death, walked up to Tobin Frost with a gun and once again extended a sincere invitation to Matt.
We got him.
What choice should Matt make? He picked up the gun and shot the leader, who had also been his mentor. In the end, Matt struggled to his feet and walked over to Tobin Frost. Seeing Tobin Frost risk everything to come back and save him, Matt felt deeply guilty but didn't know how to offer comfort. In his final moment, Tobin Frost gave Matt a meaningful message. He didn't want Matt to lose that item worth a great deal of money. He said Matt knew who he was and who he wasn't, and affirmed that Matt was better than he was. Even in his dying breath, Tobin Frost refused to surrender to fate. As his eyes gradually became blurry and empty, the fate of a legendary agent came to an end. In unbearable pain, Matt made a firm decision. Just like that, he inherited Tobin Frost's legacy, and Tobin Frost died with dignity, using his life to find himself a stronger successor. Back at headquarters, Matt truthfully recorded David's crimes in his report, but Harlan disagreed with his approach. Harlan said that some parts of the report would threaten national security. When Matt asked specifically which parts, Harlan hesitated. He explained that David could not be held responsible for the incident at the safe house because the CIA could not lose face. Although Matt objected, saying that they both knew it wasn't true, Harlan emphasized that people didn't need the truth because the truth was too terrible. It might keep them from sleeping at night. In his words, he strongly acknowledged Matt's abilities and promised to immediately promote him to a high-level management position. But right after that, he shifted the topic to a top-secret piece of information that Tobin Frost had carried with him. When Matt asked about the document, Director Harlan began explaining its importance. He stated plainly that the information in it could cause a disaster for the CIA and its allies. When Matt expressed confusion about why Tobin Frost would reveal such things to him, Harlan shifted to a threatening tone. He asked Matt if he knew what would happen to someone who disclosed the contents of the document. Matt replied that the person would be arrested. Harlan stressed that the person would be gambling everything and becoming the enemy of every intelligence agency in the world. To the CIA, that person would be the next Tobin Frost. However, since Matt insisted that Tobin Frost had never mentioned the document and there was no concrete evidence, Harlan had no choice but to let Matt leave. Before Matt walked out, Harlan advised him to think carefully about their conversation. Matt replied that he would, and added that from now on he would take over everything. Matt left the office, truly realizing that Rome wasn't built in a day, and that decay certainly started from the root. He quickened his pace, hurrying away from the city that had once been a source of pride in his heart. At the same time, he sent an anonymous email to various media agencies with just one click. And with the disclosure of this top-secret information, the widespread criminal and corrupt activities of NATO member states were also exposed. The parliaments of those countries based on the intelligence list also accused many corrupt agents. CIA Director Harlan was also prosecuted. At this point, the intelligence agencies of these nations had to face an unprecedented power reform. At the end of the story, Matt arrived in Paris because that was where the person he loved most in his life was. But affectionate glances under the blazing sun could not avoid the fate of turning away and plunging into the world of darkness. And just how far could he go in the end? That's the end of today's story. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe.